If you're a fan of the NBA, you clearly know what is happening in this clip, but for anyone that may not be tuned into the happenings in the basketball world, I'll try and help you out. 35-year-old Jimmy Butler, who has been in the league since the Chicago Bulls drafted him with the 30th pick of the 2011 NBA Draft, is a former Most Improved Player, 6-time All-Star, 5-time Second-Team All-Defense and 2021 Steals leader, is looking to join his fifth team. If you're wondering why someone with a resume such as Jimmy's seems to have a hard time finding a place he wants to call home, well, that's the big question I think most of us would like to know. It has been reported that Butler, who has a $52.4 million player option for the 2025-26 season, wants a contract extension, and it is very clear that the Miami Heat aren't interested. At least not interested in the numbers Jimmy is looking for. While that could make sense, if you can make sense out of an aging player unhappy with $52 million for one more season in South Beach, you might be wondering why he left the other organizations he's been with. Let's look into that a little deeper, shall we?
Following a collegiate career that saw him initially attend Tyler Junior College before transferring to Marquette, Butler was selected by the Chicago Bulls with the 30th pick of the 2011 NBA Draft. During his rookie season in Chicago, Jimmy would come off the bench, seeing an average of 8.5 minutes and just 2.6 points per game. As he began to prove that he should see the floor more, head coach Tom Thibodeau would oblige, as he would play in 82 games during his sophomore season while also cracking the starting lineup in 20 games. He was beginning to prove his worth more and more before exploding during the 2014-15 season, being named as an All-Star reserve and winning the NBA's Most Improved Player award. In July of 2015, the Bulls would reward all of Jimmy's hard work by signing him to a 5-year, $95 million deal, keeping him in Chicago for the foreseeable future. Things would continue to improve for Butler, as he was part of the 2016 Olympic gold medal-winning basketball team and would go on to be named an NBA All-Star starter in 2017. If someone would have told Jimmy, while he was attending Tyler Junior College, that by 2016 he would be a gold medal winner, I think even he would have been skeptical. As his play would improve, Jimmy would want to renegotiate his contract, but the front office wasn't willing to budge, which signaled the beginning of the end for his time in the Windy City. In what will become a recurring issue, Butler would openly complain about the lack of effort in the team's younger players. However, the straw that broke the camel's back came when the club would replace head coach Tom Thibodeau with Fred Hoiberg, who Jimmy simply did not mesh well with. I believe in the guys in this locker room, yeah, but I also believe that we probably have to be coached a lot harder at times, Jimmy would say. I know Fred is a laid-back guy and I respect him for that, but when guys aren't doing what they're supposed to do, you gotta get on them, myself included. In June of 2017, the Bulls would trade Butler to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, who, at the time, was still looked at as a heck of a player, and a draft pick that the club would use to select Lauri Markkanen. While no one will ever question Butler's work ethic, as you do not go from a junior college player to a gold medal winner without busting your butt, it would become clear that Jimmy expected everyone on his team to have that same passion and drive. Unfortunately, not everyone has that dog in them, and Jimmy simply wasn't interested in playing with anyone that didn't match his effort. Jimmy would join a Timberwolves team that included the likes of Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, Tyus Jones, Jamal Crawford, and Derrick Rose. Though Butler would be named as an All-Star reserve, he would decide to sit out of the festivities in an attempt to rest and get ready for a Minnesota playoff push. However, as luck would have it, Jimmy would go down with a knee injury during the T-Wolves' first game back from the break, which resulted in a meniscus surgery. Incredibly, Jimmy would return to the club in time for their playoff matchup with a Houston Rockets team that included Chris Paul, James Harden, Clint Capella, and Trevor Ariza. The Rockets would dispatch the Wolves in 5 games, but no one could imagine just how important this loss would turn out to be. According to Mark Berman of the New York Post, a source close to Butler would reveal that Jimmy had a problem with how the young group of Wolves conducted themselves. Butler didn't like some of the guys' lack of professionalism. Jimmy and then Timberwolves head coach Tom Thibodeau had long talks about how to deal with it. When Butler realized it was unsolvable, he lashed out at the organization. His clock was ticking on his prime and didn't want to waste it and forced his way out. Tommy was telling him to have patience, see it through. There was some pushback on Butler, who Wolves fans hoped would bring stability to the franchise, as it would be questioned why he would leave such a talented roster rather than work to install his level of competitiveness and drive on the younger guys. In a strange display of leadership, Butler would infamously lead a group of third-string players to a scrimmage victory against the team's usual starters. This likely did not help solidify his relationship with the likes of Towns and Wiggins. After expressing numerous times his desire to leave Minnesota, the club would eventually grant him his wish, sending him to the Philadelphia 76ers to join a roster including Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, Tobias Harris, and J.J. Redick. Jimmy's time in Philadelphia would seemingly end just as quickly as it began. Joining the 76ers during the 2018-19 season, Butler would play in 55 games for Philly, leading them to the NBA playoffs where they would defeat the Nets in the first round, before falling to Kawhi Leonard and the eventual NBA champion Toronto Raptors. Butler knew the writing was on the wall when the club made the decision to sign Tobias Harris to a 5-year, $180 million max deal. It was evident that the front office was not willing to meet the financial expectations that Butler seemingly was set on. Also, once again, rumors swirled that he did not see eye to eye with his head coach, this time that being Brett Brown. During an interview on J.J. Redick's podcast, Butler would express his frustration with Coach Brown's decision to switch him to point guard during the team's playoff run. "I don't think it was fair to switch over like that," Butler said. "The entire year, Ben had the ball. So you mean to tell me that in one playoff series, you just switch up like that? I would be like how Simmons was, I would feel a type of way." This situation would seemingly haunt the 76ers for a while, as Ben Simmons would eventually request a trade, which confused and frustrated Joel Embiid. According to a report in The Athletic, Embiid would react to Ben's request. "It was kind of surprising to see," Embiid said in regards to the aforementioned report, which suggested Simmons cannot play alongside Embiid anymore. "We'll say that even going back to, the reason we signed Horford and got rid of Butler, which I still think was a mistake, just to make sure Ben needed the ball in his hands, and that's the decision they made. Like I said, it is surprising." Philadelphia would work out a sign and trade deal with the Miami Heat, sending Butler to South Beach, where he would agree to a 4-year, $142 million deal. Jimmy's time in Miami went about as well as one could hope for until now. During his first season with the Heat, Jimmy would earn his 5th All-Star Game nod while leading his club to a 44-29 record, good enough to win the Southeast Division, and a 5 seed in the NBA playoffs. Playoff Jimmy quickly became must-see TV. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the NBA playoffs would be contested in the infamous bubble, where Miami would quickly dispatch of the Indiana Pacers in the opening round, sweeping them in 4 games. Butler averaged nearly 34 minutes a contest, while putting up 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2.5 steals, and a block a night. The Heat would take on the reigning NBA MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo and the number 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks in round 2. Impressively, the Heat would pull of a stunner, knocking the Bucks out of the playoffs in just 5 games. Full disclosure, Giannis was forced to miss Game 5 due to a sprained right ankle, but the Heat were clicking on all cylinders at this time, and it showed. Miami would take on the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals and would continue to roll. The Heat would defeat Boston in 6 games and earning a championship matchup with the LeBron James-led LA Lakers. Butler became just the 2nd player in finals history to lead his team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. Unfortunately, the Heat's run would come to an end, losing to the Lakers in 6 games, but the future looked very exciting for Miami fans. On August 7, 2021, the club would sign Butler to a 4-year, $184 million contract extension, and he'd show the sports world just why he makes the big bucks, leading the Heat to the best record in the Eastern Conference. Miami would knock out the 8th-seeded Atlanta Hawks in 5 games, and the Philadelphia 76ers in 6 before falling to the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat would incredibly reach the playoffs in their 4th consecutive season while becoming the first play-in team to win a playoff series. Not only did they win a series, but they'd roll through the number 1 seeded Bucks in 5 games, the 5th seeded New York Knicks in 6, and the number 2 seeded Boston Celtics in 7. Butler was visibly drained during the NBA Finals, where the Heat's dream season would come to a crashing halt, losing to the Denver Nuggets in 5 games. Fast forward to where we sit now. As you likely know, Butler has gone public with his request to leave Miami and join a new team, stating that he does not believe he can find any joy in the game while playing in South Beach. The rumor mill says that he is unhappy with the team's unwillingness to sign him to a contract extension, as well as the offense running through Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero more and more as time would pass. As of this post, Jimmy is still in Miami, though suspended by the NBA for 7 games due to conduct detrimental to the team. Where do you think he'll land this time? Would you want your team to trade for him? If you're still watching, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe for more NBA content.